I call today a double whammy day because of what happened at sixth period. So this is the type of day that would leave you academically finished and good with everything, but it just leave you off balance. So to start it off, I was able to wake up early this morning and I was barely able to eat a waffle and a bar of chocolates, even though it is the worst choice that I should have eaten. Like sure, the waffle would is whole grain, but that's not enough to last me an entire day. So regardless, I did come to school around like 7:40 a.m. And as for the daily group conversation, it went mostly well. This time I did initiate a nice conversation with one of the people in the friend group, and I tried to find a conversation entry point, such as intrusive thoughts or what about an opposite version of you with the people nearby, but it didn't really hit well, in my opinion. Actually, I sat back and I had a short conversation mixed this time about many topics. We talked about the book All My Rage and some other things that I still don't remember. It went mostly great in my opinion. And as the thing that I noticed for social play tectonics that I've always rambled about before, I noticed that there were two separate zones. The bench I was in had very few people, around like 2 to 4 people, some were standing up. And the other bench was a literal Thanksgiving feast. There's like 10 people on that other bench, completely full, and I found it pretty interesting. And it means that friend groups, according to social play tectonics, fragment and people join in different places. So it's natural. I said theirs had like 12 people. It's a literal feast, Thanksgiving feast. And I did ask one of them right at the end of the period, a zero period, if they wanted to meet me during first lunch, because if you guys remember Operation First Lunch last week, for those last 15 minutes before that, their lunch ends, but they forgot to actually go into the library. Credit to that one guy, and I forgot the name and his partner too, so I'm kind of sorry anyway. I did write to you guys at the end of today, if you remember at all. First period, we continued on our daily Spanish diary, and whatever the teacher says that we want, we'd say necesito más tiempo. And I wasn't picked for any question necessarily. Question the teacher about a lot of words in Spanish, like what's the word infinite in Spanish? How do I say the verb to cuss in Spanish? So that if I was picked for a number, I would just say quiero infinito tiempo, because everyone else says necesito más tiempo. I need infinite time. I mean, everyone else couldn't answer, and I can't answer either, so we should make it a little bit comical, I guess, even though it's not funny at all. I'll be honest. Now, the teacher said something about the word cuero and that it means some sort of material. And apparently, back in the Dominican Republic, it also means, at least what he says, quote unquote, neighborhood bike. And I found that metaphor quite funny. One of the girls, which I am baffled yet not baffled, said, quote unquote, you mean ho? Says her, and I was surprised, like, dang, but yes, that is true. My teacher meant by what a neighborhood bike means is that essentially someone who gives everyone a chance to do the dirty. And as for the assignments, even though this is not connected, I was able to finish up that Spanish diary assignment. But one Spanish assignment section, as the teacher decided to do the homework in class, that we're learning about preterite tense, which I ever so prefer haber plus past participle instead. We finished up like 90% of it, but we only had the last part we had to do for homework because we ran out of time. I was able to finish it around a few periods later, but I don't remember exactly when. Anyways, the Spanish video for the daily Spanish reading that we always have was funny again. The kids were acting for the camera, showing examples to Spanish to us, the audience, but I know they're definitely laughing a lot off camera. I'll be real honest with that. But moving on to second period, this time PE went mostly fine. I played volleyball with a random boy nearby, but I wondered why one of the other local volleyball players who planned to join didn't join in for like the first 20 minutes. So for the first 20 minutes, I just played with that boy and the rest joined in. I was kind of bad at the game, to be honest. I could have done better, but I missed some, I won some. Thankfully, during this time, I did wear sunscreen, but my mom did get mad at me at drop off time earlier because I didn't bring my bottle, and is also disappointed because I had to take her sunscreen bottle for the day. So, oh well. Third period, we continued in our science class in our new seats, and our teacher recapped on what we passed and failed on the test regarding the questions. The teacher even asked me why I didn't even reach an 80% on the test since I am pretty smart. Even the class was curious too, because if I got less than an 80%, then that means the rest of the class would probably get less than 80%. But Caleb, one of the comical guys at the test, and even today, because if you're watching, you asked about one of the girls and what they got wrong. You said, quote unquote, that's one thing she didn't search up, quote unquote, to one question that the teacher says the class got wrong, which practically means like last week it was inferred that your friend that you're always against used AI on the quiz review, and which was on the test, and I found that funny. After that part, we did take notes for water regarding its density, and of course, the teacher also assigned sketch notes right at the end of class, which I finished later on, but I didn't think he was actually going to assign it today. But, well, one last homework done for this class, I guess. Now, fourth period, this is essentially Operation First Lunch Day 2. I was sent to the library to study, and for the first few minutes, I decided to wait for the person who was promised to meet me during the early morning, because I told you guys during this early morning that there was this one I talked to that maybe ended up meeting me for first lunch. That I decided to wait for the person, but unfortunately, they were not there. They probably forgot to, or conveniently forgot to. So instead, I decided to meet up with an old friend nearby who also has first lunch, and we had a great short conversation. Now, credit Ali if you're watching this, so just leaving that out there. I had to leave the library on later on, departing around 12:20 p.m. Without my partner, since he also came with me, but he went to go use the restroom. But instead of coming back to the library, he just went straight back to the fourth period's door. But he was right in our classroom, but he was not inside yet. So instead of like asking him or rambling on why he should have came back to the library, I just said that no questions asked. So we both came in and we did a quiz later on in that class. It was also at this time before that I entered class with the name of Layla, or someone posing to be one of my friends who is named Layla. Apparently, they said they can't enter their account and can't access their main account. Bad thing about me is that I fell for this, believing that it was true easily first. But later on, because I didn't provide anything and the school data was also bad, I had to do that quiz and I also had to join class pretty early. And then their accounts vanished and disappeared after messaging. And Layla is someone who is not in this class. As for that account, I did question why, but I'm really not sure if that was a fake account, some sort of test, or maybe some sort of AI that's trying to mimic another account. So I'm not really sure. I'll leave this to Noelia to deal with if you guys have any stuff that's going on. Anyways, as for the quiz, I barely finished it, shy of question 7, but the teacher did not let me finish because he had to turn off his projector for next period. Now, lunch period, quite fine. Noelia, I did ask you if this was a false account, someone posing as Layla, or someone actually needing help. So you said Layla already knows that, and he's not actually suspended off of Instagram. It's a good thing that I did not provide them any code and that the school data was conveniently bad, so I couldn't really respond to them as fast, giving the accounts enough time to, eventually vanish and disappear. As for lunch, I was pretty hungry, so instead of eating, all I did was just have a simple conversation. Bad thing is that I did get kicked out of my table as before you guys came to sit down, as I was originally at, so I had to relocate elsewhere. So it was not good at all. Now to fifth period. Fifth period went quite interesting. I bet 13 cents and said to the teacher, in order to fix the chronic absences problem in this class, we must get the kiss of a day where everyone is not late. And the teacher took me off that. Even if it was one day, everybody the next day would end up being late again. And the bad thing is that a few students were late, including the one that always comes late, Jackson. And, as for the reading of Lord of the Flies, we read how Ralph, Piggy, Sam, and Eric in chapter 11 confronted Jack and his tribe, and how Piggy died as a result of Roger's actions because of a stone throw and a little lever that was used by Roger. And we learned how Sam and Eric got tied up and how the conch got broken, eventually causing complete madness in Jack's tribe and the loss of, technically, civilization and reason. I believe that later on, in the ending, since a British naval officer comes and rescues them, and oh my god, all of a sudden, those boys are not savages, they're just little boys with face paint and spears. I wonder what alternate endings or an assignment my teacher might assign to us if Jack or Roger's tribe ever got prosecuted. Maybe if the British officers decided to investigate the island. Or maybe an alternate ending where Ralph is no longer alive and Jack's tribe moves to even more dangerous forms of, doing this or that. So I wonder, we might have an assignment like that coming up soon, I predict. But other than that, I did finish up a worksheet relating to chapter 11, and I barely finished up no red ink. A grammatical assignment about verb tenses, and well, I was barely on time before it led to this period. And yes, one of the girls in my front row did joke about how their friend is like Anger, that one character from Inside Out from Disney. Period. Sixth period. The teacher was sick, so she didn't have as much of a voice this time. Instead, she assigned us to a 12 problem worksheet to work throughout the period. What I found out is that my friends and I that I talk to always make like weird sayings toward each other. Like one of the Roblox characters' addiction and how they publicly mention it, and that how much they want to go into their character tonight, and how much they beg to see a picture again of Melanie so they can use it to have fun with themselves tonight. And they said this stuff like publicly to him, like right where everyone could hear by an ear stones. And I don't get why my friends normalize speaking up like this in publicly, because if you want to have fun with yourself, whether you are a teen, adult, man or woman, boy or girl, or trans, like you don't publicly mention it in a classroom, even where people could hear it, to tell your friend, like, hey, I'm gonna get into this tonight. But my friends do. I don't get it, to be honest. But I just find it odd. I did finish up that math assignment though, for about the a plus bi solving for quadratic formulas with roots that do not exist. I decided to work on my sketch notes assignment from science, but the problem here is that after I shifted away from the local friend group, I witnessed myself a double whammy. I wanted to ask the teacher if I could borrow my phone that I took, that I needed for the sketch notes assignment. She didn't let me because she's very rigid on phone restrictions. And I asked if I could borrow a black pen. She said she's sick, so no one's borrowing anything. I asked one of my friends for a pen, but they gave me a red pen instead. And they blew it at me instead, saying like, "What color pen do you want?" Of course, black or blue pen. I don't need a red pen. But then that, I did have to delay it because, as I said, it's a double whammy. The teacher didn't want me to borrow her own stuff. She didn't want me to use her phone that I needed to do the sketch notes assignment for. And right at library dismissal time, I did finish it, barely doing it and barely finishing off the day. It left me academically complete, yet mentally shaken.